we don't have electricity, but I think very soon it will come back because it left around 8 in the morning, so it can come at any time. So I'm not going to waste any time. I welcome everybody who is in the meeting. I welcome the department led by the Deputy Minister, Department of Environment, Fishery, and all the provinces that are in the meeting, because we have extended the invitation to the provincial legislatures. So provincial legislatures, as you know, when we are dealing with the bill, you are allowed to participate in our meetings. So don't feel free to participate. Feel free to make a point where it's necessary. I will give the deputy minister. Oh, before I go there, Aska, give us Amanda, and give us the agenda of today's meeting. Though is a presentation on the bill, Veld bill, which is 76. Gobas, are you in the meeting? You assist Amanda if she's having a problem.
Sure, yes, I'm in the meeting. I will quickly share the agenda for today. I think there's only 2 agenda items. The first agenda item is briefing by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment on the National Veld and Forest Fire Amendment Bill, Bill B24B of 2021, Section 76. And then the second agenda item is the consideration and adoption of minutes, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kubas. Any mover for the adoption of agenda?
BP moves, Chairperson, for the adoption of the agenda.
Any seconder?
Kiva is seconding the Honorable BB on the adoption. Thank you very much.
The agenda is moved and seconded. It means we have adopted the agenda. Let's go to item, which is the, oh, do we have any apologies for today?
No, Chair, no apologies.
I can speak, please. Allow Gobas to speak. You can write, but don't speak, please.
Chair, if I heard correctly from Aska, there's no apologies that were tendered for today that he's aware of, Chair. If there's anything that he missed, he will message me and I will update the committee, Chair.
Thank you very much. From the department led by Deputy Minister, do we have any apology?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to honorable members. Today, the Select Committee clashes with the Portfolio Committee. Therefore, our DG and our Minister is with the Portfolio Committee. Therefore, those are the 2 apologies that I can talk of. The rest, everyone is on the platform.
Thank you very much. From you, honorable members, do you have any apologies? None. It means the only apologies from the minister and DG, but DM, the relevant person who's going to do a presentation, is it in the meeting?
Person, yes, the DDG responsible for forestry is on the platform, although we have a person who's going to do the presentation because she's not well, but she is on the platform, DDG, no data.
Okay, Thank you very much. I am not going to waste any time. Let me give you a do overview, and then from there you give your department, they present, and then after they presented, is then you can give back to me.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and can I also then request your permission to switch off my video because we have the same challenge as the one that we're experiencing there. Chairperson, I'm not going to be long, but let me take this opportunity then and greet yourself and honorable members, and let me also extend my greetings to the department's officials as led by DDG, as I have just indicated to yourself, DDG Nodada. Without any waste of time, Chairperson, as I have said that I'm not going to give any overview, but I just want to thank the committee for speeding up this piece of legislation since it was debated 2 weeks ago in the National Assembly. Therefore, without any waste of time, can I then give over to DDG Nodada just to introduce the presenter and then we take it from there. Thank you very much, my Chairperson, and thanks to the honorable members. DDG, through yourself, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM. Good morning to you and good morning to the Honorable Chair and the honorable members. Without wasting time, I will hand over to Mr. Madula, who is responsible for forestry policy management and is key in terms of the administration of this current legislation that we are looking at. So he will give us an overview of what has happened in the past few months in terms of the amendment of the bill, and will take us through what amendments have been proposed and are being presented to the committee this morning. Thank you very much, Chair. So I will hand over to Mr. Madula.
Thank you very much, DDG, and a very good morning to the chairperson. Maybe let me start by also putting up a video so that at least you can put the face to the voice. But with your permission, Chair, to enhance connectivity, I'll request permission to then, from now hence, switch off the video if it's permissible.
Okay. Though we don't see you.
Let me change position or at least cut the light. Am I visible now? Thank you very much, Chair. Should I proceed? Thank you very much, Chair, and a very good morning to yourself, the Deputy Minister, and honorable members and members of the department. As introduced, I'm Abashoni Renmadula, currently responsible for forestry policy management. I'll be taking you through the National Veld and Forest Fire Amendment Bill, which we have been busy amending. Next slide, please. So this is the outline that will follow as guided by the Secretariat. We have a list of acronyms that we have provided there, since in the presentation we'll be referring to those. We'll go to the introduction, provide a problem statement, objectives of the bill, also address some key areas that we want to bring to the attention of the select committee, and then we'll then go into the core of the presentation, which covers the proposed amendment as per B version of the bill approved by the portfolio committee and adopted by the National Assembly. and then we'll then take you through the consultation process that we undertook, and then provide concluding remarks. Next slide, please. So these are the list of the acronyms that we have referred to in the document. I will not go through all of those. So the purpose of this presentation basically is to brief the Select Committee on the National Veld and Forest Fire Amendment Bill, Bill B24B of 2021. The National Veld and Forest Fires Act of 1999, referred to as a Principal Act, was first promulgated in 1998 and has subsequently been amended twice in the past, first in 2001 and again in 2005. The primary objectives of the bill of the Act is basically to prevent and combat veld, forest, and mountain fires throughout the Republic. The Act also make provision for prevention and mitigation of veld fire risk through establishment of institution, in particular the Fire Protection Association, and provides for methods and practices in line with the Disaster Management Act. The problem that we are trying to resolve with the amendment is to, in the main, address two core areas. One is the issue of the challenges in the interpretation and non-comprehensiveness of some of the terms that are used in the Principal Act, which present some challenges in terms of implementation because of the ambiguity of some of those terminologies used. But also to address inadequate cooperative governance arrangement. This includes, amongst others, the participation of local government, state entities in the administration of this legislation. But the last point, the bill, the Principal Act had no provision for interested and affected parties to lodge an appeal on the decision that will have been taken by delegated officials. So we are also addressing that particular aspect. Next slide, please. So in this process, we have also taken into account the government's strategic priorities, in particular, try to address issues of transformation, issues of unemployment and job creation, but also food security. In terms of transformation, it is our view that through the provision of an appeal process against a decision taken under the delegated powers and duties, this will assist in enhancing transformation, but also the establishment of fire protection associations will promote the involvement of traditional leaders and the inclusion of women and youth in decision making around fire matters. Next slide, please. We have also, next slide. So in terms of the objectives of the bill, we are doing this to improve the administration of the Act, to deal with a number of important technical enhancements, to align the legislation with the post-1996 constitutional framework, and ensure that the Act remains responsive and relevant in the field of combating and preventing veld fires. Next slide. I think there is a repeat of the slide. Next slide, DDG. So in terms of the process followed since we started with the amendment process, We published the bill in the Government Gazette first in March 2015 for public comments. But following that, a series of public consultation on these amendments were conducted by the department in all the 9 provinces with key stakeholders starting in May 2015. Public comments were then consolidated into a report, and the bill was then revised, which was followed by presentation to NEDLEC. And then from there, the bill was tabled in Parliament by the then Minister of Agriculture and presented to the Portfolio Committee of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. The Portfolio Committee held several public hearings throughout the country. And following those deliberations, there was a recommendation for the Minister to withdraw the bill to allow for further consultation, as the Portfolio Committee at the time felt that we had not adequately addressed, we had not adequately consulted with some of the key institutions, especially local government, SALGA, departments like COPTA, as it was felt that these have a significant contributions towards the bill. Next slide, please. Subsequently, then we draw up a reconsultation schedule and with key stakeholders, amongst others, local government, Forestry Protection Association, members of the public and provincial structures such as the provincial disaster management centers. We also invited further inputs and comments from organized agriculture and other government departments, especially those that were identified as critical to the process. These inputs and comments received from the consultation from all the 9 provinces were recorded and then consolidated into the report. We then amended the bill and requested the Office of Chief State Law Advisor for pre-certification of the bill following the reconsultation. The bill was then, we then received a certification from the Office of the Chief State Law Advisors in February 2021. Next slide. The department further obtained strategic economic impact assessment certification from and quality assurance from planning, monitoring, and evaluation in the presidency in 2021. And this bill was then presented to the ASEAD cluster, who recommended for the bill to be tabled in Parliament, which then happened in September 2021. And then following the approval by Cabinet, the bill was then tabled in Parliament in October 2021 and referred to Portfolio Committee for Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. The Portfolio Committee considered the bill, and in its consideration, they also had extensive consultations in all the 9 provinces from May 2022 to October 2022. And they held 3 sessions in all the 9 provinces. And the summary of the presentation is in the table that is below. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the summary of the consultations that took place starting in the Free State in May 2022 and leading to the last sessions, which were held in October 2023 in October 2022. The table summarizes the number of people that attended this consultation session, including the percentage of those that supported the bill and those that didn't support the bill. Next slide, please. During this consultation processes, quite a number of issues were raised, which were followed by the portfolio committee inviting the department to come and respond to the issues that were raised by communities throughout the country. Some of the comments or inputs were specific to the legislation, to the bill itself. But others were broader Veld fire issues, which we will address through other policy processes. So in addition to the department, the portfolio committee also called on other government departments to come before it to address other broader issues, mainly those that were related to service delivery issues, but the critical departments like COPTA, the National Disaster Management Center, SALGA, and Water Affairs, Water and Sanitation, and DPWI were also provided an opportunity to provide detailed inputs on the bill. The report was then tabled in the portfolio committee in November 2022, followed by the adoption of the bill by the National Assembly in 2023, and it was then sent to the National Council of Provinces. Hence, we are now here to present that bill, which was approved by the National Assembly. Next slide, please. So going to the specific amendments that are captured in the bill B24 bill of 2021. The first clauses seeks to amend the certain definition and inserts new definition in the Principal Act. The first insertion is for definition of fire in the open, and this reads as follows: fire in the open means any fire not within a building or structure, but does not include a fire in an area specifically designated for such fire, protected against wind and spreading, and maintained by the owner. So that's the definitions that the portfolio committee also adopted. This is meant to clearly define the term for the better enforcement and alignment to the other relevant legislation. Next slide. The next amendment is the amendment of Section 2 of the Act, which is mainly, the first one is mainly to adopt the definition that is of a municipality that is captured in the Local Government Municipal System Act. So basically here we're aligning this definition with the Primary Act or the relevant act. The next essential is that of a public entity, which means a public, which we are defining as, which means a public entity as defined in Section 1 of the Public Finance Management Act. This is the new insertion. We have also, because we'll be amending the long definition or truncating the long definition, the long title of the act. We are now making sure that when we refer to the act, we are referring to the new act, the new title, the National Veld Fire Act. Next slide, please. The next amendment is amendment of section 2 of the Act, which deals also with issues of interpretation. Here we are defining, we are putting a new insertion because the current Act didn't define what a traditional council is. So the new insertion here, we are saying traditional council means a traditional council as defined in section 1 of the Traditional and Quiescent Leadership Act. So we're basically aligning the definition with the current legislation. We also have an insertion because there's currently no definition in the Principal Act of Traditional and Quiescent Leadership Act in the Principal Act. So the definition that was adopted is Traditional and Quiescent Leadership Act means the Traditional and Quiescent Leadership Act of 2019, Act number 3 of 2019. We have also attempted to strengthen the definition of Veld fire in the Principal Act, and the new definition as adopted reads: Veld fire means any vegetation fire that occurs outside a city, town, is adjoining industrial or residential area, including any vegetation along any rural urban fringe of a city, town, and its adjoining industrial or residential area. The definition clearly defines Veld fire to be inclusive of all types of vegetation. The original definition was limiting to veld, forest, and mountain fires only. But this is more inclusive. Next slide. The next amendment is amendment on section 3 of the Act to make provision for municipalities and traditional councils to facilitate the formation of fire protection associations in the area under their jurisdiction. So this insertion reads: the municipality concerned and the traditional council established in terms of section 16 of the Traditional and Quiescent Leadership Act, if any, may facilitate the formation of a fire protection association process as contemplated in subsection 3 if the minister is of the opinion that a fire protection association is required. This is meant to provide for those institutions mentioned there to facilitate formation of fire protection association in their jurisdiction. Next slide. The next amendment is on section 4 of the Act, which addresses issues of non-compliance with the provision of the Act by public entities, state-owned enterprises, and other organs and state. It had come to our realization that a number of state entities are not participating in fire protection association, thereby leading to a number of litigation cases against the state, which is costing the fiscus a lot of money. So we have made an insertion here, which now reads: the owner in respect of state land, a state-owned enterprise, a public entity, or an organ of state must, within a year after the commencement of the National Veld and Forest Fire Amendment Act of 2021, join a registered fire protection association in the area in which the land is situated. So this will at least ensure that there is strengthening of compliance and enforcement of the provisions of this legislation. Next slide. The next amendment is on section 10 of the Act, which talks to the to exemption provision to allow for the use of fire as a management tool during high to extreme fire danger rating condition. This is an acknowledgement of the fact that in biomes like in the protected areas, fire can have positive benefits to biodiversity. So we are allowing for fire to be used under specific conditions. So the insertion or the clause which was finally adopted will read, when the minister has published a warning in terms of section 1B, no person may light, use or maintain a fire in the open air in the region where the fire danger is high or extreme, unless the minister on good cause shown exempts in writing a landowner or group of landowners from the said warning, subject to any conditions that the minister may impose. The minister must, before granting any exemption, consult the Fire Protection Association of the area, if any, and the fire protection officer. This will benefit landowners, including farmers and conservation agencies, to use fire as a management tool. Next slide. The next amendment is on section 11A of the Act. And this is more a correction of the name of the fire service. The principal act previously referred to the Bureau. So we have substituted that with service, and the new formulation reads the South African Weather Service, established in terms of the South African Weather Service Act of 2001, Act number 8 of 2001, if the Director General of the department responsible for the administration of the said act. I think it's important to note that the principal act made reference to the Department of Environmental Affairs and Tourism. So normally with the change of the macro structure of government, it presents a challenge if the name of a department changes. So we have made it somehow neutral and ensure that it's accurately referenced in the amendment bill or amendment act. Next slide. The next amendment is on section 26(2) and 3. Here we had identified there was insufficient mechanism to enforce the provisions. So we are here also extending the powers to enforce the legislations to, amongst others, the traditional authorities in their areas of jurisdiction. And as part of us conferring these responsibilities to the traditional authorities, will go on to a capacity building campaign to ensure that they are well informed of the provisions of this legislation. So in the new act, this section will read as follows: a forest officer, a police officer, a peace officer, a traditional leader as defined in section 1 of the Traditional and Question Leadership Act, and an officer appointed in terms of section 5 or 6 of the Fire Brigade Services Act of 1997, Act number 99 of 1987, have the power to enforce the act, provided that they have been trained to be competent by an accredited institution to exercise powers to enter, search, arrest, seize in terms of this act. B, a reference to a fire protection officer in sections 27, 28, and 29 includes the officers and the traditional leader referred to in paragraph A. A fire protection officer, that's section 3, subsection 3, a fire protection officer and any officer or traditional leader. Next slide. So I think the next amendment here is on section 32 of the Act, which is an insertion to make provision for an appeal, as I've reflected earlier. So this particular section, section 33A, subsection 1 will read, any affected person may appeal to the minister against a decision or action taken by any person or entity acting under a power delegated in terms of this act. Subsection 2, an appeal under subsection 1 must be noted and shall be dealt with in the manner in accordance with the procedure prescribed by the minister in the regulations. Subsection 3, the minister shall consider the matter submitted to him or her on appeal after giving every person with an interest an opportunity. So this basically is an insertion of the appeal process in the legislation, which previously was not provided for in the Principal Act. Next slide, please. This amendment of section 37 of the Act is basically to change the name of the Act to Veld Fire Act. So, subsequent to the process, the Act will then be referred to as the National Veld Fire Act. So changing the name of the Act to Veld Fire Act will ensure consistency and alignment as the term Veld Fire was being revised to be all-encompassing. Next slide, please. So as I have highlighted earlier, we had extensive consultation throughout the 9 provinces, and amongst those that we have consulted are the state-owned entities such as OSCOM, SANRAL, and South African Weather Services, government departments, forest sector, including Forestry South Africa, the conservation agencies such as SANParks and SANBI. We have also consulted the National Forestry Advisory Council, which is the council appointed in terms of the National Forest Act to advise the minister on all matters related to forestry. We have also consulted the Forest Sector Transformation Charter Council, academic institution, the House of Traditional Leaders, SALGA, and other research institutions that are involved in related work to this piece of legislation. Next slide. So in conclusion, it is our view that the amendment bill during its review has been aligned to the Constitution and other relevant legislation to ensure effective enforcement. And this will assist in the administration of the Act. And the process also address a number of technical enhancements such as refinement of the definition and insertion of new definitions in the Principal Act. And this will also ensure that the bill remain responsive and relevant in the field of combating and preventing field fires. I think this is the end of the presentation. I'll hand over to you, Chair, for questions and clarification, unless if the team also have some additional issues to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me check from your team whether they have anything to add.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I think we are okay from our side in the line function. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Honorable members, the bill has been presented to us. Now, if we want to ask questions or we want to comment, you are allowed. I'll see by raising of your hand. I can see the hand of Honorable Laboskachny, Honorable Ibi, Honorable Winingwenya, Honorable Papa, and Honorable Mkiva. Honorable Laboskachny, you can start, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much for the presentation. I've got a few questions that I need some clarity on. Just for the sake of interest and taking this bill to the provinces, I would like to know if the department can give us the one biggest issue that has been raised by public participation while the bill was in the National Assembly, taken to the provinces, and was not being included or amended in the bill as it is before us, and what would the reason be for that? The second one is I've seen that this bill has been, was presented to SAIAS and got a go-ahead from the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. I would like to know first, does that is there provision being made in any other place that I haven't seen for the financial implementation of this bill? And especially with the concern about the existing state of fire protection across the country, is there a funding model for this bill, or when this bill is becoming an act? And another worry is, will there be some financial support specifically the municipalities' capacity support? That's a big worry. Then it's interesting that you've also said that when you presented this bill and got feedback from provincial disaster management centers of all the provinces. I would like to know how many of these disaster management centers in the provinces did make a presentation and giving us an indication of how many of them are up and running and functioning. The Fire Protection Association, I haven't got a clear idea, and that's maybe just only my understanding of how this will be supported, governed, and monitored in this bill, and how will it interact with local fire brigades and for instance, Working for Fire, that program. And then also, I've seen that state-owned entities has been included. What about farmers? There was a question while I was looking at the public participation processes about not inclusive enough. Then another question is, does the bill provide clarity on the roles, functions, and support of all the three different spheres of government, or is that still part of some other legislation that you have to read in conjunction with this bill? And then a question based on that is, to what extent does this bill assist in the efforts to reduce legislative fragmentation as identified in the white paper, as that was one of the challenges related to the fire prevention and management issues? The last question, are the other fire prevention strategies and requirements, because we know that various types of vegetation and things requires different strategies. Are they mainstreamed in other legislation related to sectors impacting on land use, just as an example, agriculture and forestry? Thank you very much. Those were my questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Labuschagne. Ma'am Bibi.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. I think the Honorable Labuschagne has covered me with these two questions regarding the three spheres of government and also the impacting on land, including agriculture and so forth. So I don't have any other questions, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mama.
Mama.
Honorable Mama Winnie Ngwenya.
Thanks very much, Chair. Chairperson, thanks very much for giving me this opportunity to ask these few questions. And also, I would like to thank the presentation that have presented in front of us. Chair, my question number one, I wanted to check whether the Department of Forestry and Fisheries and Environment has a plan to deal with cross-provisionally and national board fairs. If yes, can we get the details of the plan? My second question, Chair, I will check that whether the bill had linked the rules of the municipality with the Fair Protection Association. If yes, how does the bill link those rules? The last question, Chair, I want to check what will be the penalty that will result when a person or a state entity defaulted on the provisions of the bill. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mama. The next one is our Papa.
Thank you, Mamas. Greetings to your chair, department colleagues. Well, let me first join and welcome the presentation from the department. The first question is about the taking of the bill. Can I get the confirmation whether the reason behind what is the correct taking of this bill we're dealing with in front of us? The second question, Mamas, it's about the issue of the Fire Brigade Service Amendment Act that fall under the jurisdiction of the department responsible for local and provincial government. How is cooperative governance ensured between relevant legislation dealing with a similar matter, but which fall under the jurisdiction of the different departments and ministers? The issue is more about the correct location. And the fourth one, it's about the Fire Protection Association. How will it be supported and governed and be monitored as it raised? The last issue from my side, Chair, it's the issues as touched by Honorable Labuskaghni, coming from the National Assembly. Those issues that they think are serious issues that we have to seriously consider without, in a way, influencing but assisting the process, so that at the end of the day we come with something that will be assisting to take us forward. But linked to that, most of the amendments that are coming from this bill are issues, in my view, that they were supposed to have been attended some time ago. What was maybe the delay in making sure that we have these amendments, as now it's almost some years after they were supposed to have dealt with them? Otherwise, I'm fine with everything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Papa. Honorable Mkiva, the platform is yours.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to you and good morning to the honorable members of this select committee. And I also greet the Deputy Minister from the department, as well as the DDG who's leading the administrative side of things. Chair, I think this presentation is very good in the context of coming up with laws that are quite progressive and that resonate really with issues that are happening at grassroots level. My question will really relate to the rural communities, particularly those that are in communal areas under the jurisdiction of traditional leadership. There's been a mention several times on the presentation on the importance of ensuring that there's a meaningful understanding and participation of traditional councils at one level and traditional leaders in general as leaders of those villages. What I want to understand, my question is going to be linked, my first question is going to be linked with what Honorable Nyambi has just asked in terms of the capacitation of those fire-felt associations. I imagine you know that the municipal offices are located in city centers and town centers. Now, in the rural communities, the very traditional council that is being mentioned doesn't even have tools of trade to start with. And the issues of mitigating felt fires and firefighting, they require not only the tools, but it also requires training, some kind of a specialized training. I do know that there are indigenous ways of adaptation and which are linked to knowledge systems which are African. But I think more than that, will the department come specifically with a training method which can sort of be anchored around that indigenous method in order to strengthen the firefighting, so that we don't plunge people who happen to be in that association of firefighters into fighting fires that are wild and dangerous, and then in the process we trap our people to death because of those fires. So my question is basically, it's a question, or you can take it as a rhetorical question, because there would be a need for such a training over and above the resources. Remember, fire does not necessarily require the the general form of transportation in order to go and confront fires, because fires are flying and so on and so forth. How in the rural communities do you envisage that firefighting when the traditional councils are far away from helicopters, far away from, planes that fight fire. Later on that they don't even have quad bikes and so on and so forth. So this issue of tools of trade and equipment to fight, it needs to be well considered, I like the idea that you are mainstreaming the role of the Traditional Council, but you need to go beyond that. My second question is linked to, you have mentioned that you have interfaced with several structures that are quite relevant in the subject matter. Now, specifically to the House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, you know that this house is more like a part and parcel of the parliamentary precinct, because it's part and parcel of the development and writing of the laws of the country. So your interaction with it should not just be clubbed, with general stakeholders. There has to be a specific way of interacting with it in a manner that you give them an opportunity to give an input that would pay attention to detail, because paying attention to detail has everything to do with closing ranks and to ensure that the law that you want to have in the final analysis is an all-encompassing instrument that resolves the question that you wish to resolve by establishing a bill of this magnitude. So I will leave it at that, Chairperson. On the overall, like I said, this is a very progressive thing. It's long overdue. These amendments in this piece of legislation is quite very key going forward, as long as all those aspects are attended to. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkiva. Now will be followed by Honorable Fandi Haston.
Honorable Westhuizen, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. Andrikus van der Westhuizen from the Western Cape. Ma'am, I want to refer back to that amendment, and I'm really grateful that the owner of state land should now be involved with fire protection associations. My problem is just the wording owner, because quite often the owners of state land are public works, be it the National Department of Public Works or the Provincial Department of Public Works, who then make that land available to clients in the form of departments such as Department of Environmental Affairs and Forestry, or Water and Sanitation, or the South African Defence Force, or the South African Police Services. So the owner is often sitting in Pretoria, the National Department of Public Works, whereas I believe it should be the clients that should be represented on the fire protection associations, because they are closer, obviously, to where the action is. And perhaps I could just get some clarity on the definition of the word owner of state land, please. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I just want to check with you, Honorable Labuskakni Lepapa and Honorable Mkiva. Is it, you want to ask a question, or is a previous hand?
Chair, I've lowered my hand. It's an old hand, sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Papa. Honorable Mkiva, Honorable Mkiva, do you want to ask a question, or is it a old hand? Let me give back to the department to respond to all the questions that members has raised.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks also to the members, honorable members, for those questions and the comments that they made. And the department under the leadership of the DDG, Nodada, is going to respond on the questions. But I need to indicate that most questions that has been raised, especially those questions that has been raised by Honorable Mkiva with regard to the traditional leadership and the support that he wanted to know whether then are we going then to support the traditional leadership. Yes, indeed, Honorable Member, this act it does empower the department to give support and training to the traditional leadership. I think DDG is going to take us through when they respond, what kind of support and how we're going to give that support. But some of the issues that, for instance, they've left out that I thought they would have spoken about it are the issues that we have raised, Honorable Mkiza, when it comes to the issues of the traditional leadership and the support that department is supposed to give to the traditional leadership. Ms. Nodada is going to tell us who's going to respond, and she's also going to respond on some of the issues that has been raised by Honorable Ngwenya with regard to cross-border fires, the plans, if I heard you correctly, and also the issues of the role of the municipalities. We must remember that before the act was amended, the municipalities were not forced to be part of the FPAs. But now that we have this act, municipalities then are supposed to play part in the fighting of fires in their municipality or in their provinces. I think they will explain some of the issues because I'm just trying to browse through what I have noted here. Can I then, through yourself, Honorable Chair, give over to Ms. Nodada so that they can respond to some of the questions that has been raised by the members and give clarities on those that need clarities. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thanks to the honorable members.
Thank you, DM.
Thank you very much, DM, and thank you to the honorable members for the questions. The colleagues are on the platform to assist on the matters that maybe I would not have covered. I will also request our legal colleagues to assist with the question that was related to the taking of the bill by Honorable Nyambi. Now, just to maybe just give an overview of the Act and its responsibilities so that it probably tries and covers some of the issues that have been raised, especially with regards to the FPAs and the support of the FPAs. The FPAs allow for owners of land or users of land to come together and form an association where they can work together in terms of how they manage these fires. This is clearly stipulated under Section 5 of the Principal Act, which lists the duties of each of these fire protection associations, where it indicates that they would need to have a fair fire management strategy. And that is why we want to have even the state-owned entities to be part of that, because bringing them together with this association means that the membership fees that get to be paid assist these FPAs for them to be able to function. So in terms of the question that was related to the issues of governance and support, what we have done is that using the Principal Act and the amendments that we are proposing, the department has developed an FPA support strategy, which looks at both financial and non-financial support. The non-financial support will include things like issues of awareness, issues of intergovernmental support, where we try and bring these different spheres of government together to form and affiliate into these FPAs to deal with issues of preparedness, to deal with issues of fuel load. And we also, we provide training. And then through this strategy as well, what we want to do is to look at the funding that we have so that we can see what kind of funding we can provide to these FPAs. That will also be linked to the Working on Fire program that is already existing. Now, one of the questions was asking if there are issues that have been raised in the consultation that we have not considered in this bill. We have considered all the issues that are related to the bill itself, and then we've separated issues where they are dealing with mostly implementation. Most of those issues were about how we will support communities, how we will support FPAs, and how we will support the traditional leaders as we want to bring them into the bill. And that is catered for in the FPA strategy. And linked to that, there was a big outcry about the issues related to the cross-border fires, which I think has also been asked in these questions. And through the work that we do as a department, through the SADC protocol on forestry, which looks at different items within the forestry development, and fires is one of them. So we then have a collaboration with the neighboring countries on how to deal with the fires. And what we've also done is that through the Commercial Forestry Master Plan, which was approved by Cabinet in 2020, we've included the issues of fires in that master plan, where we are now have started a process of reviving these discussions with the neighboring countries. I know that the colleagues were last week meeting with the fire protection associations around the Free State to look at what kind of support would they need for us to then take that input into the discussions of the MOUs that we want to sign with the neighboring countries, so that should there be issues of fires that go across borders, we all, both this country and the neighboring country, would know how we would address those. In terms of the SOEs included, there was a question that were the farmers consulted. Yes, the farmers and the communities were consulted. They formed part of the initial consultation that we did. I think the presenter mentioned that there were initial consultations that we did prior to this administration. They were included in that consultation, and they were also consulted during this consultation that has also been finalized by the portfolio committee. In terms of the cooperative, the Fire Brigade Amendment Act. So what we've done is, when we were amending our act, we had discussions with COGTA and the NDMC to see what their act says versus what our act is saying, what are the purposes, what are the mandates. And then because our act was ahead in terms of the process, what they have done is to comment on our act, and then have indicated that as they amend their act, it is aligned to what we are doing. And what we've also done is that through the master plan, those issues are also captured there to make sure that there's always that alignment between this legislation and also understanding in terms of the mandates that we are supposed to be doing as the different government departments for the same goal. In terms of the rural communities, I think DM touched on this in terms of the ensuring that there's participation of the traditional councils and the capacitation thereof. We having a training program that has been set up to make sure that the traditional councils, as they come to understand what their roles and responsibilities are, they are trained. We've just now finished the first phase of training. It started in January. It finished, I think, just before the 15th of Feb, where we've done the first phase of training with the Nelson Mandela University to try and make sure that those people that have been nominated to form part of the management of the Act, or whatever the case may be, can then be trained. I think I've dealt with the issues of fragmentation. So in terms of the fire protection strategies and how they are mainstreamed to the other sectors impacting on land use, as I indicated, the landowners or the land users are supposed to form part of these fire protection associations. And if, as a landowner, as an example, I do not form part of an FPA and I do not work with my neighbors in terms of making sure that there is that collaboration, when a fire starts, and then I am not prepared in terms of fire breaks or whatever that I'm supposed to be having, then the liability lies upon me until I can then be able to prove that I was not liable. The collaboration assists in bringing together the resources so that there is that working together between the farmers or between the neighbors within that particular landscape. And what we've also tried to do is to make sure that all the FPAs are aligned to the municipal boundaries so that it is easier for municipalities to then join these FPAs and provide that necessary support. In terms of the tools of trade through the strategy, that's what we are looking at to make sure that there are those tools that are provided, but also linked to that is then the work that is done through the Working on Fire program, where there is provision of the firefighters, and there's training of those firefighters, and there's deployment of those firefighters in the different areas. And what we've particularly looked at in this current term of the program is to make sure that there is a placing of the firefighters in rural communities or as close as possible to the rural communities, so that should there be a need to fight fires, it is easy for them to have access to that resource that that government is supporting. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have, if colleagues, I have something that I have not covered. I would request Mr. Madula to come in, and also Mr. Kobese. Let me just see if I think Mr. Kobese is also in the meeting to also come through as well to answer some of the questions that I might have missed. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
DDG.
Thank you, DDG, and my apology, Chair. My hand raising icon has disappeared. It's Mr. Madula. I want to address two issues that the DDG might not have covered in responding to the questions that were raised. The first one, I think, was asked by Honorable van der Westhuizen in relation to the definition of an owner. And what I can say here is that the Principal Act does already define what an owner is in Section 2, subsection 11. And that definition is all encompassing, and it addresses in the main the concerns that Honorable van der Westhuizen raised. I'm not sure if I should then read that particular section, but I think that particular section does address the concern of the Honorable member. The second issue related to issues of penalties and offences that was raised. That section 24, or let me say chapter 7 of the Principal Act deals with offences and penalties. Specifically, section 24 deals with penalties, and section 25 deals with the offences. So those aspects are already captured in the Principal Act, and in case of the penalties, it quite guides how these issues will be dealt with when a member of the public or even government official contravenes the legislation. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, sir. From your side, did I done with?
Thank you, Chair. If we can give Mr. Kwabese to respond. Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kubas.
I'm trying to unmute, Chair. No, thank you, Chair. I think the colleagues have covered most of the questions. But from my side, I wanted to come in on the issue of tagging. Yes, Chair, just to confirm that indeed the bill was initially tagged as the Section 75 bill, but subsequently there were deliberations with the Parliament, with the relevant component in Parliament, and now the bill was reclassified as a 76. We do have a copy of this, of a legal opinion around classification in this regard. We can share it if that is necessary. But as we speak, the bill is a 76 bill. That's why it's before the NSOP for further processing, Chair. So I wanted to clarify that point around taking. Reni has covered me around the issue of ownership, as was raised earlier by one of the honorable members. I think the Act is quite a comprehensive definition of the term owner. So the fact that you are not an owner per se, but you are the leasee or you are in control of the land in question does not absolve you from taking responsibility in terms of complying with the Act. So that definition of owner is quite comprehensive, and it extends not just to owners in the ordinary sense of the word, but also to leasees and any person in control of land. Then, Chair, the issue around penalties, I think Mr. Madula covered that as well, because the Act also provides for, there has a dedicated penalties provision. Offences and penalties are provided for in Section 24 and 25 of the Act. Offences are categorized in terms of severity of the offense. There's three categories, category 1 to 3. For example, lighting up a fire in the open air when there has been a fire danger warning by minister is a severe offense. A category 1 offense punishable by the highest penalty, which is 2 years. Then there was a question earlier, I think from Honorable Labukashni, asking whether there's been any issues raised before the portfolio committee, which were not really considered. I think the answer to that is yes, there was a package of issues that emanated from the public participation process, but the committee treated those as substantive provisions, which would require a second round of public engagement. The committee then resolved that those issues can be put in abeyance, or perhaps those can be addressed in further amendments to the Act, or an attempt must be made for those to be addressed in the regulations where feasible. So there is a package of those types of amendments that could not really find their way into the bill in its current form. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Let me go back to honorable members to check whether they still have questions. I see Honorable Labuskaghni.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the answers. I would like to request the amendments that has been spoken about that might be or can be become part of the regulations, if we as the committee can be provided by a list of them. And then maybe I've missed it. I would like to know, did anybody answer, and I'm sorry, my apology if I've missed it, about the disaster management centers of the provinces, how many of them gave an input? And then also, Chair, that is not for today, but I would like to request the department to come back to us and present to us the Fire Protection Association support strategy that was mentioned, that they said in that strategy, they are going to look at awareness and intergovernmental support and training and the funds and the working with fire and a lot of things, which sound to me a very good thing. But I think for us to have a full understanding of the implementation and how this bill is going to be implemented and the specific roles and functions and the monitoring of this, I would like the department to do a presentation to the committee on that strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Labuskakni. Honorable Mkiva.
No, thank you very much, Chair. No, I think that the answers are quite very good and they actually cover us very well. But I just wanted to check that with regards to training, it's very important that when we develop a method of training that we combine both that is based on the university or tertiary form of training or what I would call academic form, which really draws in the main from Eurocentric methods. So just for the training sometimes to resonate and be localized and be Africanized, it is important to infuse an element of indigenous knowledge system when we do those training. Because sometimes we import, you know, ideas and methods, and yet we've got solutions right here in the local front. So it would be important that the department can interface with institutions that are a repository of indigenous knowledge systems, including organizations like Contralesa and any other organization that champions IKS. And then secondly, Chair, I just wanted to check if this bill is also available in the indigenous languages so that we can understand the depth as well. Because sometimes people write these laws and bills in English, and yet they themselves do not think in English and dream in English. So it's important that it is availed in our indigenous languages. So I would appreciate, Honorable Deputy Minister, if I can be emailed a copy, at least in Sesotho and Xhosa, so that I can share it as well with my constituency in a language that they are more fluent in. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkiva. Honorable Memabatu Mukausa.
Thank you, Chairperson. I know the department has made a mention of the support to traditional authorities in terms of fell fighting and all of that. But if you look at how these certain portion of this bill is structured, it doesn't speak about the proper remuneration of, unless I have missed it, proper remuneration of felt fires, especially those who are found in rural communities or rural municipalities. And I just also want to understand, are these levies that are going to be paid by some associations are they being regulated? Also, Chairperson, the owners that are managing the forests, are they going to remain the primary responsible for the forest? Or are they just going to be there, but not also having some certain responsibilities? Also, Chairperson, one comment that I would like to make is that this must not be seen, this bill must not be seen to be giving landowners undue powers to chase people away from forests that they have been utilizing for generations, because we see that happening when a certain legislation or bill gets passed. It gives certain owners the authority to remove people from the land that they have stayed there for quite a long time. Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Monka Hussein. Ma'am Labuskakni, is it a legacy hand, or do you still want to ask something again?
Chair, if I may, I would like to ask something again.
Okay.
Just a follow up. Thank you. Just a follow up on one of the answers. I asked a question on the fire protection associations, and it was given mostly about the support strategy, but it also, somebody said that these fire protection associations would be aligned to municipal boundaries. That covers a lot of other things. I also raised a question about, you know, the three spheres of government. I would like to know if these FPAs are going to align with existing municipal boundaries. If a municipality is functioning not well enough, or is, you know, we know there are so many municipalities. We all know the state of municipalities at the moment. So how will that affect the functioning of this association? Because to me, it's them setting them up for failure. On the one hand, I do understand the reason for trying to give them a structure within a specific structure. And I would like to know how does the department think will that work? And, you know, from my point of view, in some areas, it's putting them up for failure, and therefore may be linked again to the financial model that I also asked a question on. Thank you, Chair. That would really be my last question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Labuskakni. Now I'll give back to you, DM, and your DDG and your team.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to the honorable members. I'm sorry for this. Yes, Honorable Labuskakni, on the issue of the FPA's support strategy, that even if it's not today, that we needed then to avail that strategy to the select committee and also the monitoring thereof. I think DDG has taken note of that, so we'll have to do that. And I have also noted the issue of the issue that was raised by Honorable Mkiva with regard to languages, indigenous languages, is Honorable Mkiva. And then we'll have to remember that we have more than 10 languages in the country. It means that we should then consider, say that we can then try, because I agree with you. For instance, if you go to the Eastern Cape, as we were then doing the public hearings, most of the inputs were done in isiXhosa, and therefore they're expecting us to respond in isiXhosa, and there are issues that they raise in the Free State where I am. Issues were raised in Sesotho and Setswana, and in order for them to understand that their issues has been incorporated in the Act, we need indeed to respond to in a language that then they would understand. Mine is just to say that I will give to the DDG to respond, especially to the issue, the last issue that was raised by Honorable Labuskakni with regard to the FBAs, especially if we say that the municipalities, they will be aligned to the municipalities, and then she's worried about the municipalities that we know that they are not performing so well, and then is this not going to affect the FBAs? And DDG is going, and the team is going to respond on those, but those that, for instance, the number of the disaster management centers, I'm not sure whether we have that number now, but we'll hear from DDG. If they don't have that number, We can also then respond in writing together with the strategy when we bring the strategy to the select committee. Thank you very much, Chairperson and the honorable members. Can I then ask the DG and the team to respond to some of the additional questions that were raised by honorable members? Thank you very much, honorable members. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, DM. I think in addition to what you have noted, DM, the additional information on the regulations, on the amendments that are supposed to form part of the regulations, we will also provide that. And DM, you are correct, the number of PMDCs, we don't have them offhand, but we can provide that information. We know that they did participate in the provincial meetings, and that NDMC came and made that presentation to the portfolio committee on behalf of the provincial disaster management centers. Then, with regards to the alignment of the boundaries of FPAs to municipalities, what we have picked up during the implementation of this act is that most of the landowners are part of the FPAs, and the FPAs are currently functioning. And as we want to bring the municipalities to participate in the FPAs, then aligning the boundaries to a particular FPA makes it easier that the fire protection officer within that municipality can then be able to be responsible for one FPA or participate in one FPA than to try and participate in 3 or 4 different FPAs within a particular municipality, which has been difficult in the past. So hence the idea of having them aligned to the municipalities to try and make sure that at least when resources are coming from that municipality, it covers the whole municipality. The Act also provides for that should a municipality not be available to be a fire protection officer, then the FPA itself has an obligation to nominate another person to become that officer so that the FPA can function. So in an ideal situation, we would want the municipalities to be involved within their jurisdiction so that it's easier for them to also commit resources within that same jurisdiction to augment what is being provided by the department, is being provided by through the membership fees from these different landowners. I think, Chair, I was not able to get very well the issue of the owners that are managing forest, that will they still be responsible for forest? And I hope I got that question correctly. What I can say is that the people who are currently managing the forests will remain managing those forests, and the expectation is that if you are a person managing such a forest, because forests are prone to fires, you would then need to be part of the FPA. And I apologize if I've maybe misinterpreted what the question was saying. In terms of the membership fees, the membership fees differ from FPA to FPA, and these FPAs take into consideration a number of issues. One would be the size of the land that I own as a landowner, because if I own or I manage 100 hectares, I cannot be expected that I will pay the same amount as a person who's managing 1 hectare. So the size of the land, issues related to the probability of fires in that particular area. There are areas in the country that are prone to fires and are already mapped as high extreme fire areas. So those areas would then probably have more fees than the others, but it depends on the FPA itself, because they sit and they develop a constitution, and then they look at what is possible and what is not possible. But what we try and make sure is that there isn't that discrimination, especially with the rural communities, that they cannot form part of the FPAs because they cannot afford to pay membership fees. Hence, through the FPA strategy, we want to try and balance those things and make sure that there is funding that comes from the department that would augment the work of the FPA. I don't know, colleagues, if I have missed something. We've noted the issue of the training methodology, the inclusion or alignment of the indigenous knowledge. We'll take that into consideration so that that knowledge is not lost, because it's the knowledge that has been used in the past and has been successful in terms of being used. Thank you, Chair. If you allow, I will just find out from the colleagues if there's anything they want to add. Otherwise, if there's anything, we will advise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Mr. Madula is saying all is well from his side. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, ma'am. Let me check with members. Are you satisfied with all the answers that the department provided?
Yes, we are, Chair. Thanks very much.
I see the hand of Honorable Mamukausa. I don't know, is it a legacy hand or is it a new hand?
No, it's an old hand. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much. Now, let me thank department led by the Deputy Minister for this presentation of the bill. And also let me share the same sentiment with Honorable Kiva to say, when we go down to the provinces, the rural areas, they will need their language to be, we need to speak their language. And then if possible, because from time to time, we used to tell the department to say, as the select committee, when we deal with other matters, especially that when we will be doing the public hearing, we will need the bill in their languages to avoid the penalties, to avoid for our community members. I've seen your penalty offenses 2 years. So let's provide them with the bill that they will be understanding it, so that tomorrow they won't be saying we didn't understand what this means. So can we, the department, yes, we understand, Honorable Deputy Minister, that we have more than 10, 11 languages, but can you try something? Can you try something to make sure that our community are taken on board? I saw saying, let me give you, Deputy Minister, to say your conclusion word, and then we allow you to excuse us so that we can continue with the matters of the committee.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to honorable members. Yes, indeed, Chairperson, we have taken note of your closing remark, issues that you have raised. And as the Deputy Director General responsible for forest management has indicated that we will indeed consider the issues that has been asked by members. Then also there was a question that maybe we should also then give information when we report back, that was raised by I forgot the name. I forgot the name. It's But the question, yes, that's correct. Yes, yes. I'm sorry, honorable member. It's only that I did not note down the name. I didn't hear us responding on that because she had a question with regards to the stipend or remuneration for firefighters that she wanted to know, is it enough? What is it that they're getting? The FPAs and all that. Yeah, I didn't hear us responding to that unless I missed that. All these issues that we did not respond satisfactorily, we will then respond as usually by writing to yourself, Chairperson. Thank you very much to the honorable members. Thank yourself. As I have said in the opening, that we are very happy that you are dealing with this piece of legislation. As we could see from the presentation that was made, that it started as far back as 2015. Therefore, it's very important that before end of this term, we then finish this piece of legislation, because issues of fires, this season that we're in now, March, April, we know that all over. It's just the fires are all over now. Then we needed then to make sure that this legislation is implemented fully with all those that then we discovered in the implementation process of this piece of legislation. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to the honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you, DM. Now you are released, and then let me take this opportunity also to thank the representative from the provinces that were in the meeting today. I hope they are going back to their province, and when the department come down to present, they will be at least understanding what their department are presenting. Thank you very much for participating in our meeting. Now you are released, the members from the provincial legislatures, members for the permanent members of the National Council of Provinces. You are requested to remain so that we can conclude the business of our committee. Okay, I think they have left. Gobas, what is the item, the next item?
Chair, the only remaining agenda item for today is the minutes that ASCA has forwarded to the committee for review and is sharing on screen now, Chair. The adoption of these minutes are the only remaining item.
Okay. Honorable members, I put the minutes of, when was this date? Last year, or when?
Chair, it was the last meeting of last year, yes.
Yeah, it was the 29 November 2022. I put the minutes in front of you for adoption. Before adoption, if there is a correction, we can correct. And if you want to amend, you can do that. And let me check first whether did you receive the minutes on time? Honorable members?
Yes, we did, Chairperson.
Yes, thank
you.
Okay. I put in front of you the minutes of our last meeting to for adoption, honorable members.
Honorable Ngwenya?
Okay.
I move,
Sorry,
I
Chair.
move to adopt the minutes, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mamgwe.
Sorry, Honorable Chair. There's just one mistake on the, or it's just a spelling mistake there on my surname.
Oh.
I have asked in the previously that they corrected. It's the brain, it's DE, not DU.
Honorable De Bruin, say name, please. Secretariat, make sure that you write our name correctly. Thank you very much, Honorable De Bruin.
I second, Chairperson, with amendments. Thank you.
The minutes of our last meeting has been seconded. Any item, honorable members, adopted? The previous minutes of our meeting, our committee has been adopted. Any item, Honorable Kobas, again, before we close the meeting?
No, Chairperson, that is the end of business as scheduled for today.
Okay. Honorable member, let me take...
Sorry, Chairperson, can I please indulge? Do we have an idea what would be on the program next week?
Yeah, I will be coming there. Next week it will be the 22. The 20. No, it will. Next week it will be the holiday for our committee. So for other
Sorry,
days.
Sorry, yeah, I do realize that the one after that, the 27th, 28th, but it, yeah.
27. Yeah. The 27 again. It's the 28. It seems the 28 again, honorable member. It will be clashing with the chairperson's workshop. I will speak to, I don't know, because honorable member, we are having a serious challenge that we are facing this year. We have this bill, Veld bill, in front of us. The 28th, we were supposed to receive the presentation from the Department of Agriculture on the another bill. And sometimes around April or May, we'll be receiving another bill, gas bill. So I really don't know how are we going to handle these matters, because we need to deal with the bill. We need to make sure that our provinces understand the bill and they participate and they comment. So there is a plenary, there is a plenary, there is a meetings on our days. So really, I need your indulgent, honorable member, on this issue. Really, it's gonna give us a problem. Otherwise, we maybe to say we will work after hours, after the meeting of the chairpersons, after the meetings of, I mean the plenary, so that we can make sure we deal with this bill and the matters that are for our committee, because there are a lot of things that we need to do and we don't have time. I've seen a hand from Honorable Kathy. Are you coming?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair, for the feedback. I do understand that there's a challenge about all the bills that we have. My proposal would be the following. You know, I can't see how a whole program of Parliament can be brought to a standstill because of workshops. So my proposal would be for the presiding officers or the people who make these decisions about this, because I haven't heard about any workshop in the WIPS meeting. That was not on the program. That's not on the program. So my proposal would be to have the workshop either, on a day that there's no parliamentary, there's no plenary, because there are many of them. And my further proposal would be, because there are 2 select committees, 3 clusters: the economic cluster, our cluster, and the security cluster. There's quite a number of bills, and the security cluster has a few bills, Section 76 bills. Economic cluster has a few of them, and we have a few of them, and we are aware of those who are on their way. As we look at the bills, list of bills that's before the end. And my request would be to raise this on the chairperson's forum, and I don't know if Honorable Nyambi is still in the meeting, but then to schedule meetings for the select committees, to get permission to schedule meetings for the select committees, specifically for bills on, say, for instance, Wednesday afternoon when we do not have a plenary. I do understand the problem is that these bills all have to go to the provinces, but, yeah, that's the one thing. And then on the other hand, I know that one of our priorities is bills, but the rest of the program is, we have that presentation that was supposed to be today on the Waste Bureau for 2 years on, and every time it's been moved because of bills. So we have to find also a balance between the bills and have maybe 2 or 3 bills presented and then have a normal program. I do understand this, and therefore I always advocate in the WIPS group that the NCOP in principle should have a cut-off date in the last year before the term ends for bills to come to the NCOP to prevent this disaster that we are facing every time at the end of a term. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Labuschagne. Let me say, Honorable Member, we will see what we can do. I don't want to put Honorable Nyambi and put him under the bus now. Let's see how we gonna do.
He's strong. He will lift the bus up.
I'm ready to assist if there's any problem.
I've
concern raised by Honorable Labuschagne, and I sympathize with her. And unfortunately, it is what it is. What was suggested to the committee is to look at a possible date earlier or at a later date, as long as it can accommodate the long outstanding appointment, because it's not an issue of only chairs of the NCOP, but it's all the chairs of parliament to deal with the issue of drafting of some legacy report, as all of us are aware that we are almost rounding up. And of course, we've got a pile of bill, as correctly explained by Honorable Labuschagne. So what I will concretely suggest is for us to look at a possibility, Chair, of looking at a later date or an earlier one, if it's going to be possible with members to do that. But it's a genuine concern that is being raised, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, it's beyond what we can do now. If it was an issue of the last option that is available is maybe to excuse the only committee to deal with its business on that day, if that is possible. That is the last option. But my view is that let's look at an earlier date or a later date. That's what will be convenient for all of us. But I'm not against what Honorable Labuschagne was raising in terms of a principle in how we have to do things. But thanks for protecting me, Chair. I'm always relying on you. She really wants me under the bus, and she's happy now I'm under the bus. Thank you.
Thank you, Papa, providing a good answer to this question. Honorable members, like I said, give us a time to go back with this program, and then we'll come back to you. Either we get the earlier date or after, or we requested the date, maybe Thursday, any day that will be available, or even we can even request from you, honorable whips, to say, how about we use your Monday so that we can try to catch up? Because this is it's not our problem.
No.
These bills, they have been a PC at the National Assembly. Now they are coming now, they are many, and we need to have them more than a PC, because it's section 76. So maybe I will ask with you to, how about we can utilize your, okay, no. But maybe
sorry, Chair, I have, because no Mondays, because every other place, the ethics committee, all committees are falling back on Mondays. In the end, none of us will be ever in our constituency. So I'm sorry, no Mondays.
Okay,
from my side.
Thursday or Friday, honorable members, afternoon. Or after hours, honorable members. Really, I really, I'll come back to you, but maybe I will call the meeting like I used to call Honorable Labuskakni, your whips, the whips of the committee. I mean, to come and discuss this matter. Let us not prolong this issue. We will come with a solution, but we need to deal with the bills.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, let us close as we are closing right now.
No, thank you very much.
We can go back and think thoroughly. When you call your meeting, then maybe we'll be having ideas. How are we going to make it? Thanks, ma'am.
No, thank you very much, honorable members. This meeting is then adjourned.